How do I read 52 books in a year? Hey and welcome to today's video. My name is Julian. On my channel, it's normally about making you crypto fit, but today I don't talk about blockchain, decentralization, and so on. I talk about a topic that I get asked a lot, and that is, how do you read 52 books in a year? And maybe some background story to all this. I have been reading 52 books or more a year since my last year in medicine, and this is now almost 10 years ago. So 2018 was actually the year that I had crossed my 500th book. And it's something that came up because I read all these studies, and I'm a very scientific person, that kind of compared successful people to not successful people and what are differences. And obviously you had a lot of things. You had things like grit, and you had things like vision, and you had things like energy. But one thing I could definitely always see was how the more successful people were those who read more. You know these terms, leaders are readers, readers become leaders. And so I kind of had this vision for myself that I really wanted to read. And most studies said that most people don't even read one book a year, and that most Fortune 500 CEOs read 10 or more books a year. So I said, you know what? It must be doable to read at least a book a week, to do your 52 books, 52 weeks challenge. And this is how this all came to be, and I kept documenting the books, and I gave a star rating, and I do all this. And the reason I actually document this is something that I'm going to be covering actually in this video. But before we go into this, let me tell you something, and that is the tyranny of how. The tyranny of how stops so many people from actually doing something. And in this case, it is actually something that Simon Sinek always starts with, which is start with why. Now, I don't always agree with how he structures stuff, and you will see this in a second, but I totally agree with starting with why. So this is the very first question. Why do you want to read 52 books a year? And this is a very key thing. If you're just doing this because Julian said so, or because you read this is not going to be enough. There has to be a true conviction. And I actually started, that was 2017, so it's now 2 years ago. I started struggling a bit because I felt I had read so many books already, and I wanted to reread some books, and I started to slack, and I saw this in 2016. So my why was not strong enough anymore. And you know what my why then was? I went public on social media, and I told people that I'm reading 52 books a year, and I documented around every 3 months what were the 12 books that I read in this quarter to keep myself accountable. So the why is very, very, very important. Remember, you can have a why that comes from motivation with like a great incentive, or it can be a potential punishment. And we know that many times a potential punishment can be just as strong as some incentive. So the why is so important, and this is what you need to start with. The second thing is not the how. The second thing is the what. You really need to define what is it actually that you want. So don't just say you want to read more, read how much. And for me, this was clear. I wanted to do 52 books in 52 weeks. Now, the trick here is, don't get stuck on the how. Don't ask yourself, but how am I going to do this? No, you need to have a strong why and a good what, and then you're going to do it. And now let's go to the last step, and that is the how. And the how is many times what people want to hear first. But it's actually the least important thing, because I'm telling you, you're probably gonna find different ways how to do it than I do. I'm gonna give you mine. I do basically a couple different things. First of all, I mix reading with audio. Sometimes I have times when I prefer audio, sometimes I have times when I prefer reading, but overall, I combine both. For example, first thing in the morning when I wake up, I do read, and many times I read something there that is like probably a story. It's not something that's very scientific, it's not something very factual. It's kind of something that kind of spikes my curiosity. I think people like to wake up in the morning and then they like to read the news or social media, and I don't really do this. When I lie in bed, I still snuggle with my wife a bit, and I'm taking out my iPad, and then I'm reading on there. So this is how I'm getting maybe 20 minutes already of reading in the morning. I'm quite a fast reader. You can learn this, so I can do quite well there. So that's quite progressive. And then during the day, I love to listen to audiobooks. So I I don't know, I listen whenever I can, when I go for a run, when I go to the gym, when I am on my scooter, my electric scooter here in Singapore. For you probably when you're in transit, when you're in the car, I constantly listen to audiobooks. And the other thing is then, I still have a lot of podcasts that I listen to. And I kind of mix those. But for me, the books always come first. So I always want to listen to at least 30 minutes, listen to an audiobook. I try to listen at 2 times the speed. This doesn't always work. Sometimes when I have to do some kind of chores or some work, then I go down to 1.25, and then I always have my headphones in and I can listen to some things. And normally I get around 1 hour of listening in every day. So that is 2 hours of audiobook. And normally most audiobooks are like 10 hours, 12 hours. So within 5 to 6 days, I go through an entire book, and that's just in audio. And then normally in the evening, I also read. Normally in the evening, I prefer to read some fictional things. So that's just some light reading in the evening. I'm not much of fiction, and I fall asleep very early, so I'm very slow on the evening reads. Sometimes I only read 5 minutes, and then you see me falling with my iPad and I'm asleep. I generally don't read one book at the same time. I generally read 2, 3, sometimes even 4 books at a time. Depends on different genres. Maybe one is a bit more technical, very scientific, a lot of data. Many times I need to read this. Then maybe I have an autobiography or biography. I love to listen to this. And then I have some fictional reading that I read in the evening. So there's all kinds of mix how I do these around. And I'm not shy of saying, hey, you know what? I read 4 or 5 books at the same time. And I kind of like this. The key thing is, and that's why I have this shirt on, it's self-discipline, right? It's not about reading 10 hours a day. It's about doing 1 to 2 hours and making it a priority. That's so important. People ask me, Julian, how do you find time for this? Well, I tell you, how do I not find time for this? This is some of the most important things in my life. I've learned so many things through great reading. I've learned so many valuable things. And well, I think you can learn from other people's mistakes by reading about them. I think reading a good book is a completely different story than just listening to a podcast. It's completely different than watching a movie. It spikes your imagination. It spurs your curiosity. So many great ideas. So with this, I would love to hear your point in this. Are you reading? How much? What's your strategy? Something that I'm missing? Let me know in the comments down below. I've also linked up the entire blog post down below from last year's books 2018 with all the links, all the descriptions, and the star rating. And that is a key point. You need to review and make some notes. And that's going to be something that I'll discuss in a separate video, note taking and kind of remembering this stuff. But that is one of the reasons I actually make these videos, so that I have to not only read the books, but think about what's been happening in them and kind of learn from them. So with this, I hope you get some value out of this. If you do, please give me a thumbs up. Please share this. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you at the next video. Yours truly, Julian.